Welcome to Jubilee 2025 Pilgrims of Hope, a podcast from the Catholic Courier celebrating this milestone year in the Universal Church with stories of faith and hope from around the Diocese of Rochester. Here's your host, Gina Capellazzi, digital content producer at the Catholic Courier.
Welcome to episode 1 of our Jubilee 2025 Pilgrims of Hope podcast. Before we begin highlighting the faith of various members of the Diocese of Rochester who represent groups of the faithful receiving special recognition through the Jubilee year, we thought it would be a good idea to explain what exactly is a Jubilee year. So today I'm joined by Don Smith, coordinator of catechesis and family life for the Diocese of Rochester. Don has a bachelor's degree in theology from St. Bonaventure University and has been a lay ecclesial minister for the Diocese of Rochester for more than 20 years. So, Don, welcome to our Jubilee 2025 Pilgrims of Hope podcast. So my first question, what is a Jubilee year?
Well, that's a good spot to start. A Jubilee year is a year set apart, called by the Pope, to spend time renewing and refreshing our faith. I think of it a lot like every week gets a Sabbath day. In the ancient Hebrew tradition, every year got a month, and every set of years, they did like 70-ish, I believe, got a year set apart. That's what this is. And we've, as a Catholic Church, have moved to like every 25 years having a Jubilee year.
So the last one was 25 years ago in 2000?
The last ordinary one was 25 years ago. In between, you'll periodically have a Pope call for an extraordinary Jubilee, which we experienced in 2015 when Pope Francis called for the Year of Mercy.
Oh, okay. Now, explain when the first Jubilee year was and when this goes back to, because I've heard that this goes back quite some time of us celebrating Jubilee years.
Yeah, back into the 1300s was the first formally called. And then it was like every 50 years because it was new and, are we really going to do this again? And like 50 years later, they were like, oh yeah, this was great, we should do it. And after a few 50-year gaps, we got into a 25-year rhythm. And so they've been happening every 25 years for the past couple hundred years.
Explain the theme. This theme is Pilgrims of Hope. So what is this theme exactly? And then there's these celebrations that are happening throughout the year. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, those are new this year. Every Jubilee year is itself a time of renewal and refreshment. But to help with that, the Pope usually gives a theme to focus on and to help us along the way. This year, Pope Francis has given us Pilgrims of Hope. So it's an opportunity to look at the virtue of hope and the fact that we're all on a journey together. One of Pope Francis's big themes in his papacy has been accompaniment and the fact that we're in this together. Even his most recent Synod on Synodality was about how we function as a group, as a church, not as a bunch of individuals. And so that's the idea of being pilgrims on this together, is being all together on the same faith journey.
So talk about these celebrations that are happening. How did these individual groups get chosen to be honored throughout the year?
Sure. That's new this year. Part of a pilgrimage, or part of a Jubilee year, is this idea of pilgrimage, that we journey to somewhere physically, mirroring an internal spiritual journey. And traditionally, that's been Rome, that Catholics journey and go to Rome, visit the 7 churches of Rome, things like that, including St. Peter's, St. John's, St. Mary Major, and St. Paul outside the walls. Those are the 4 major basilicas. And then they go through holy doors, and it's a whole process. This year, figuring that it's going to make for huge numbers coming to Rome, and there's actually travel advisories out. If you're planning on just going to Rome, this is probably not your year to do it. If you're looking to take a pilgrimage, that's what everyone is going to be going to Rome for. And to try and help spread that out a little bit, the Pope and the Vatican have started inviting people that fall into categories to come at a particular time. So this week sometime is communications, and inviting anybody who's involved in communications to come to Rome. They're going to have catechetical sessions and prayer sessions and things like that that focus around that theme, but it takes care of a group of people so that in August another group can, and we're spreading it out a little bit more. I was able to go to Rome for the Jubilee year in 2000, and the place was mobbed, and it was May, and it was one of those experiences, beautiful. I mean, exciting to be there and be a part of it, but there were definitely a lot of people. This is one of the ways of not just getting it spread out, but giving people that are traveling on pilgrimage for a particular purpose something more than just, oh, hey, come have Mass. That's great, that's important, but have Mass with others who share this reason. And again, we go back to, we're all in this together.
Now, just before the new year, Pope Francis opened the holy doors.
Yes.
In Rome. There were 4 holy doors.
Yes.
Do we have a holy door here in Rochester that people can go through? Are there other holy doors close by for those who are not able to go to Rome?
So in 2015, Pope Francis recognized that a lot of people can't get to Rome to be able to participate in this pilgrimage. And so he opened the door. He expanded the concept to not just the 4 holy doors in Rome at the 4 major basilicas, but also every diocese having a set of doors to go through. He's continued that tradition, but shifted it slightly. It's no longer a focus on the doors, but a focus on the Jubilee or the pilgrimage site. So every diocese at their cathedral it's a pilgrimage site. You can go to any cathedral and participate in a Jubilee pilgrimage. Some dioceses have designated other locations within their diocese as Jubilee sites. Rochester doesn't have anything that really meets the criteria for it. Minor basilicas, so Syracuse has a minor basilica in Syracuse. Buffalo has like 2 or 3 minor basilicas. All of those are automatically designated. And then recently the USCCB, the bishops of the country, designated a series of sites, including the Shrine of the North American Martyrs in Ariesville, as sites that are similar. So it's not about the doors, but about taking a pilgrimage and a journey to a sacred site.
Now, if someone goes to one of those sacred sites, is there something else they need to do in order to, like, I know I've heard they get plenary indulgence. Is there something else they have to do? I mean, I just traveled, I went to a cathedral, they told me that this was a holy site for the Jubilee, but then I needed to do something else.
Yes.
Can you explain a little bit about that?
You need to participate in the Jubilee, is really what it boils down to. So it's not just about, walking past and stopping, but really taking some time to be a part of this refreshing experience that the church has. So you have to have your confession heard. You have to be in a state of grace. Participate in Mass. And as a part of that, one or the other or both, include the intentions of the Holy Father in your prayers. So a journey with 2 sacraments, and then the follow-up of trying to live what we do. Now, Pope Francis introduced a new thing this year. If you can't make a journey to a location because you're infirmed or you're homebound or something like that, you're in jail. The Jubilee shouldn't be kept from them. So he's included acts of mercy as a way of seeking the indulgence. So by taking part in confession and Mass, and rather than journeying to a location, you can fulfill one of the spiritual or corporal works of mercy with the intention of, I'm doing this for the Jubilee year, not just because I want to give somebody food, but as an act of refreshing ourselves, you can do that as well.
Is there anything else that people should be doing for this Jubilee year?
So a Jubilee year, ideally, is not something that gives us more to do, but gives us something different to do. It's meant to be a way of renewing and refreshing. And so we should still be going to Mass, but now we do it with an intention of looking into ourselves and how are we pilgrims of hope. We should still be going to confession, but now we look at how does this enhance our hope. We should still be learning about our faith, but now we learn it through a lens of hope for the year. And then next year, we go back to normal.
Well, is there anything else about the Jubilee year that people should know about?
It's a whole year. That's because we think, oh, it's a Jubilee year, and you get a lot of excitement in January and February. But it's meant to last over 12 months. And so, yeah, you're going to hear new things, new opportunities, new ways of approaching all through the year. It's not because we're trying to come up with something new or we didn't have our act together. It's because we as a church are trying to live it for a whole 12 months.
Well, thank you, Don, for joining us to talk more about the Jubilee year. You can learn more about the Jubilee year by clicking on the links in the description below this video. Or if you're just listening to us, the links are in the description below your podcast player. We will have another episode for you on February 20th, highlighting the faith of someone who represents law enforcement and the diaconate, two of the groups being celebrated in February.